Hello and welcome to the guest portion of DC Figures and Collectibles. I'm Tyler G. I'm joined by Scott P. as always, and we have a very special guest today. And if you aren't following him, you can find him at Figure Depot, Figure Depot. His name is Josh, and we are very honored and happy that he has joined us today to tell us about himself and talk to us about his style of photography and his collection in general. So, Josh, thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you so much for having me. Honored to be here.
Yeah, really happy to have you on, man.
First of all, we want to learn about you. So we want to know about your childhood and maybe what played major influences on you as you started your collection and started into this world of where you are now.
Sure. So my dad's father, my Papa Cherry, as we affectionately called him, he was a big Star Wars fan, big comics fan, and so I was 4 years old when the Superpowers line first hit in 1984, because I was born in 1980. So, of course, that Christmas, it was all Superpowers figures. He bought me the whole first wave, all the vehicles, and I just
What a great guy.
I'm telling you, he hooked me up. So,
oh my
that was
gosh.
kind of the start of it, and also Star Wars, of course, was big. That was I think that was right after Empire, but before Jedi. So, all the Star Wars toys too. I always was fascinated by He-Man stuff, but I never got into collecting it until I was an adult.
Okay.
So, but main lines I collect are, of course, like Marvel Legends, DC, anything from NECA to the Multiverse. I don't really have a lot of statues or sculptures. I picked up the Star Wars Unleashed line when it came out a few years ago, and that's kind of the only really sculpture style things that I have at this point.
Okay.
But most of what I do is action figures. So my grandfather passed away. It was 09, late 09. And my grandmother passed away just before him. And so I was inspired by him because of the action figures and all that to join the 501st Legion. Are you familiar? You both familiar?
Yeah.
With them? So I joined them and in his honor, and did a stormtrooper first. Then a few years later, I did a TIE fighter pilot, and then I had to sell it. I got injured about 3.5 years ago, and I just ended about 2 or 3 weeks ago a 3.5 year battle with my employer and the Workman's Comp Commission. So that's finally all over and done with. But in the meantime, I had to sell off a lot of my collection. I had to sell all my Superpowers figures to pay our mortgage. I had to sell, anyway, tons of stuff. And so I've been slowly trying to get some stuff back. This morning, actually, I ordered the Batman loose from the 1984. Eventually, once I get established, get back working again, I'm going to try to pick up all the carded Superpowers from that first series again.
Nice.
That'd be cool.
Well, besides the fact that you had to sell it, but growing up, were you influenced by any major movies you saw, or
of course it wasn't series? My 1989 Batman? You know, Keaton's Batman was like pivotal for just about anybody who was alive at that time and into comics.
And you got to see that in the theater, correct?
Yeah, that for my birthday, actually. It came out in '89. I was 9 years old, and my parents took me to see it. So,
what was it like? I bet it was amazing.
Oh man, like going from Adam West and Burt Ward, you know, just being silly on camera, to like a real Batman. You know, like you just knew he was gonna throw those guys off the top of the building in that opening scene. You know, whenever he gets those thugs and everything. But yeah, I mean, it was phenomenal. That movie, like, I still watch it all the time today. You know, I never get tired of it. I've probably seen it 500-600 times, and it just never gets old.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? It just stays with you no matter what. I feel like 89 is the root of 90% of people's Batman love. You know, everybody seems to have it rooted from that film.
Yeah.
Especially the people we have on.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody
definitely.
In their like 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, in that kind of age range, because I'm about to be 40 years old. So, you know, anybody from their 20s to their 40s probably has that version of Batman in their frame of reference.
What's your favorite scene from that movie?
Man, there's so many good ones. I always loved whenever the Joker says you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses, and Batman punches him in the face, and the teeth come out and chatter around. And then, of course, when Vicky Vale is there in the alley, and he's like, "How much do you weigh?" And she's like, "Yeah, about 108." And then when he gets back down, "You weigh a little more than 108." So
I love it.
That's always a funny little exchange.
Now, you mentioned that you have a family, and when you started doing this, like, how did you get into Instagram and doing this, first of all, and then what does your family and your significant other think of it?
Okay, so my wife talked me into doing an Instagram probably, I guess
nice.
it's about 4 years ago or so. It was right when it first kind of took off. She did it socially just to stay in touch with family members, and I was like, I do Facebook. I'm not really into that. And finally, she talked me into it. And so when I first started my Instagram, it was like a couple family photos, and then I got into the 501st. And so my main account, Following the Way, that was all pictures from going to troops and doing charity events and things like that with the 501st. And then as the Star Wars movies continued to come out and the Black Series line launched and all that kind of happened, I began to just tinker around in my room taking random pictures, but I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything about photography. And all I had ever done was play with action figures. So I didn't know anything about dioramas or anything to do with this animal that we now have. So, it's just it's something I did, more to just pose around on my shelf and do shelf displays and stuff like that. So finally, I started an Instagram just for taking pictures of toys, which my early stuff, you can see it's kind of rough. But as I began to follow people
We've all been there.
Doing, as I began to follow people who knew what they were doing, I was like, wow, you can really make something cool out of this. And so I began to experiment with lighting and camera angles. And then I finally started building dioramas here over the last, I guess, about a year and a half, something like that.
So your wife basically is she's on board with it. She approves.
Oh yeah, she's a comic fan. She's a Star Wars fan, so she's cool with it. She's 6 years younger than me. I robbed the cradle a little bit.
True shit.
Yeah, but she's all about it. She grew up. She kind of watched some of the like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man when those movies came out.
Oh, that's good. Her introduction to
comic book stuff. So. She was on board by the time we met and everything.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's the only good Marvel franchise out there, those Spider-Man movies. If you ask me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man a lot.
Oh, he's fantastic, wasn't he? So good.
Now, you also, besides the fact that you have an Instagram, you also have started going into YouTube, correct? You also do reviews?
Yeah, I'm not sure the exact time frame. Probably within the last year, I started my YouTube channel, and so I think the first video I just did a compilation of several of my action figure photos that I had taken over the last couple years as I was, just trying to figure this thing out, and then I got on to watching toy reviews, watching Shartimus Prime and the Review Spot, and one of the main ones I follow, and I'm drawing a blank, I can't remember, is Anthony's Customs. Those were the guys I saw first, and so I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot, and so as I would buy figures from that point forward, I'd fumbled through, trying to do some reviews, and have kind of settled into a style now, I think. So that was the evolution of my YouTube channel, was really doing figure reviews more so than the action figure photography.
Nice. That's awesome. And you also do customs as well too now, correct?
Yeah, I've got my Batman that I made. I don't know if y'all.
That's one of my favorite ones. I
love this thing. That NECA head was awesome.
There you go, Scott.
Yeah, there it is.
Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, so I took the NECA head off of. I had the purple video game one that was a Toys R Us exclusive, and I
so you
popped it.
you didn't waste the good one. You experiment.
Exactly. Yeah, my good one actually I ended up having to sell as well over the last whole ordeal I went through. So there's a lot of stuff I got to get back eventually, but I basically took that head off that video game NECA one. I saw it's itz.vintage is the account that I saw. He put one of these on a DC Multiverse Batman. And so I was like, that looks pretty cool. I said, but I want like a really like buff Batman because the NECA one was so skinny. It just like the Hot Toys one is a nice full figure, but the NECA one in the 7-inch scale was like so shrimpy. So I had a Bane figure just sitting there. Not Bane.
It's a Bane figure? Oh.
Venom. Sorry.
Venom.
I always call it Bane. I don't know why. I got Bane on the brain. But I found a Venom figure, and I was like, I can turn that into a Batman. So I cut the belt and the head off and had to Dremel up inside the head because the way these mount, there's a peg that actually goes down into the chest cavity. Whereas on like a Marvel Legends figure, you've got a ball hinge coming out the top. So I had to Dremel up inside and kind of grind that out. And then it ended up fitting perfectly with one of the drill bits I had to go on nice and snug. And I can actually take it off still. So if this body's a little too large, if I can find a body that like the Bucky Cat Buck is too small and then this Venom Buck's a little too big. So I'm trying to find like a nice mid-range, but I don't want to use a DC Multiverse body because they don't have the ankle pivot and ankle rocker, you know, like the ankles are kind of rough on some of the Multiverse figures. I wanted something that was very dynamic, like a Marvel Legends. So I'm still in the hunt, and I'll probably update this at some point. But I took the cape off of the NECA figure, and I laid it down, since it was purple, I laid it down on some black cloth and taped around the edge and then just cut out around it. And then
it's a good idea. It's a brilliant
popped
idea.
it on there and then popped the head on. So that's how we got where we are. I mounted his belt a little too high. If I had it to do over again, because this thing's super glued down, it's not going anywhere, I would put the belt down just a little bit and have more of that waist swivel to play with.
I gotta say, until you said it, I would not have known that it was the purple GameStop version. Especially on, you did such a great job painting the head. I wouldn't be able.
Thank you. Yeah, my painting. I'm trying to find a good sealer right now. I'm using Mod Podge to seal it, but I'm looking for a good sealer because I had issues with paint rubbing and stuff like that when I first started because I didn't know what kind of paints to use or anything, and I'm kind of exploring the whole painting aspect right now. The kit bashing's the easy part, but going in there and painting those details in is what really is a challenge to me at this point.
Yeah, and Scott's been showing off some really sick pictures. I really love the one that he showed off in front of the Axis chemical plant. That was awesome.
Yeah. I took a digital background and then just put the figure in front of it with blue and red light. One like a blue light on one side and a red light on the other to kind of pick up both of those colors that were in the background. Now,
you're a toy reviewer, and I've been debating getting a figure for a while, so I want to hear your thoughts on a certain figure.
Sure.
It would be this one.
Oh yeah, worth the money. Every dime. I've got it right here with me. Yeah, this figure is amazing. It's the best Batman figure, hands down, I have ever owned, especially in the 1/12.
Really?
Oh yeah, the articulation it's pretty much like Marvel Legends, but the only difference would be these hip joints are like the NECA Ninja Turtles. They have that little like. You've got the hinge, the ball hinge, but then the whole leg where it attaches at the top shifts rather than having like a mid-thigh cut.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So instead of twisting, here where we traditionally do, you get that twist right up at the top. So you can move him around from the hip socket and it does have a boot swivel. So, you know, the articulation is pretty much what you'd expect from Marvel Legends. And this head is awesome. Like, it moves around so much. You can get so much expression. He'll lean so far to the left and right because there's a ball socket into the neck, and there's a ball socket into the head. And so your ability to tilt that guy is just insane.
That is impressive, especially for NECA.
Right. Yeah, I was blown away. I was I had such high hopes for these figures, and I have not been disappointed at all. The capes on these things are like the Mezco capes. They're just huge.
Okay.
You got so much cape to work with. You can get so many different looks. It's just, this is my favorite Batman figure ever.
Really? Ever?
Yeah.
He's got some great shots up right now if you guys want to go check them out. And he's got them next to different figures as well, so you can see how he scales next to different lines.
Yeah, this guy is fantastic. And I love the Superman.
Yes.
Some people are bored by Superman. But like,
no, I love that Superman. He looks outstanding.
Yeah, and I wanted a cloth cape, and I wanted that yellow S on there. And this thing was exactly what I wanted in a Superman figure.
Yeah, that's one of the best Superman figures I think I've ever seen. It's outstanding.
It's perfect hair curl.
Yeah. My favorite before this point was the DC Icons, but it was so small.
That is a good point, yeah.
But the articulation was fantastic, and the head sculpt was a little funky, but that's because it was so small. So this is basically what that figure was trying to be.
Yeah, it looks outstanding.
Now you got the ultimate scale.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic all the way around.
Looks like a morph between all the classic Superman comics and then the Dark Knight Returns. One bit of that influence in there. It looks fantastic.
Oh,
really
yeah,
nice
you can see across the board so many different influences to just come to that perfect figure.
Yeah, I love the scale that NECA used as well. It's like a higher end of the 7-inch sort of scale, isn't it? Because you can pack all that detail in there then as well and get all the articulation in there. Not like a company sort of like Mafex where they're trying to get all this ridiculous articulation and they're like slightly short of a 6-inch scale, and it doesn't quite work as well. You know, the QC doesn't really work with them, but NECA seems to do a great job of that. So.
Yeah, I'm hoping that they give us a Wonder Woman, a classic Wonder Woman.
Yes, that'd be good.
Not Gal Gadot, but like classic comic, late 80s, early 90s Wonder Woman.
Have you got, or are you going to pick up the Green Lantern pack?
I have not yet. I probably will eventually. Right now, like I said, I'm trying to get back to work. So I had some things that I just had to have once we got the settlement and everything. Yeah. And then the rest, I'm just gonna hit the pause button for a little bit until I get back working again. And once I do, hopefully they'll have like Flash or Wonder Woman or some Hawkman would be sick. You know, hopefully they'll have some new stuff in the works, and I can start picking them up again. I did just get in the mail, literally, like I walked in the door from getting the mail outside, and I'm putting the Bane Build-A-Figure together from that DC Universe wave. Yeah, so I had these two pieces, and all the rest are sitting on the floor in front of me. They just came in the mail, so.
Nice, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, can't wait to get that thing together.
I'm sure we'll get a review for that.
Yeah, I will. And while we're on Build-A-Figures, that Killer Croc, have y'all seen that?
Yeah, I have him.
And I picked up.
Isn't he more impressive in person?
Oh yeah, like the Killer Croc and the King Shark, like to have them in hand is you have to have them in hand to appreciate them, because like pictures don't do them justice.
That's
like,
true.
Once you get them in hand, it's just mind blowing, and they tower over the Marvel Legends Build-A-Figures by another like inch and a half. Like they're so massive. Because I've had a ton of Marvel Legends Build-A-Figures, you know, through the years, but I had never had the DC ones, and they are monstrous.
Mattel really know how to do a Build-A-Figure. That King Shark's cool. Have you ever seen this one as well, Validus?
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I'm not in person, but I've seen pictures.
Validus is insane. They really do know how to make a cool Build-A-Figure, especially from those classic waves.
Is that
Yeah.
for that line is from Scott? Classic one?
Yeah, it's from DC Universe Classics from
Ah.
Fatal 5.
Yeah, and
That
the Killer Croc has the same legs as the King Shark. So
yeah.
Right, okay.
the upper torso and the feet are all new sculpts with the scales for the alligator type look, but from the waist to the ankles is the same exact mold as the King Shark was.
They got to save some money.
Exactly.
Now, you collect a lot of different lines and different figures, and I want to know, out of all of them, what is the line that you really enjoy or that you just can't seem to always want to take pictures of? What's your favorite line?
It was Marvel Legends until these NECA figures came out. Once the NECA Superman and Alien 2-pack started dropping, it was like, Marvel what? But but like I love Daredevil figures, whether it's Netflix or comic Daredevil. I love taking pictures of those, and I actually just got the Kingpin Build-A-Figure.
Oh, that's actually really cool.
He's cool. Yeah, he is very nice.
He's awesome.
And
I was
Marvel,
gonna buy the figures, but like I couldn't ever find them all together, and I didn't want to get stuck with some and not the others, and so I eventually just gave up and got him off eBay already put together.
I like that.
So you also did two different types of photography, similar to me and Tyler, obviously with indoor and outdoor.
Right.
What do you prefer doing? Do you prefer sort of doing the indoor setups with all the detail, or do you prefer going outside with a camera
if I had the space, I would build some dioramas and just make a whole city block and have like awesome shots going down like alleys and streets and stuff, and do some cool stuff with my Spider-Man figures is what I really want to do. That's kind of on the back burner just because I don't have the space right now. Eventually, probably within the next couple years, we'd like to move into a larger house because we've outgrown the one we're in. And so I'm going to have an area there dedicated just to the toy photography. I really love playing with lighting and stuff like that. But it's really 50-50 because if you've seen my Star Wars stuff, my outdoor shots and Brave Star and some other things, like I really like finding natural environments that mimic what you see on screen in films. Like especially with the Star Wars, there's a big sand pit pretty close to my house, and some of that terrain around the sand pit looks a lot like Tatooine or Jakku from Star Wars, and so I like to take my stormtroopers out there and my, some other stuff like that and get those outdoor shots. And my mom was in the hospital a while back, and while she was there, I went to see her one night, and on a whim, I took a couple figures with me. I took this Batman and I think maybe some Ninja Turtles or something. And on top of the parking garage with the hospital in the background, I set the Batman up and did just a little spotlight overhead. And it ended up being a really cool shot. So I love to experiment and just look for different places to, to take shots and try to be creative and think of things that nobody has thought of or nobody has, done yet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to be original as well, but do your own thing. Yeah.
Some of these cliff shots, especially, it's like, how did you get these to pose? These are crazy looking.
Oh, yeah. It's just luck, man. I get out there, find a spot where like I'll catch his knee or his foot in just the right place where he doesn't fall over, and I'll shoot it real fast and then run grab him. Like some of it's tricky.
Tricky.
It was so annoying. One day I was out there and the wind like knocked over like half my setup and scratched a bunch of paint off and stuff. I was like, no.
Yeah, that's the worst, especially if they fall and it's a Batman and like gets the ear, gets a chunk out of it.
All that delicate stuff.
Now, when you do take photos and you're doing pictures, is it tend to be something that you consider a time of relaxation? Is it something that you look at as like work? Okay, I need to get this done, or something you do?
It's my de-stressor. Especially over the last, like I said, 3.5 years dealing with this whole injury, workman's comp case. Like, I couldn't work. I've got 3 spinal cord injuries. I've got a herniation.
I can relate to you there.
You feel me?
Yes.
Yeah. Got a herniation at T9 and 10, a bulge at C6 and 7, and a bulge at L5S1. So basically thoracic, cervical, and lumbar are all injured. I got run over by a Turbo Titan diesel pickup truck. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was lots of fun. So basically I couldn't do anything. I was very immobile. I've gained like 60 pounds because being more sedentary, and then the doctor was giving me steroid injections to try to pull those herniations back in or whatever. And like those steroid injections just pack weight on you. Yep. So I've had 5 over the last, probably think they started them about 2.5 years ago. And so finally, like once I got the settlement and everything, I haven't seen that doctor again. I started going to a chiropractor, and he's gotten me in good shape, straighten my back back up. My mobility's coming back, and I'm starting to feel a lot better.
Thank goodness. Gosh.
But yeah, so that was kind of my de-stressor.
Back pain is no joke, but that's good that photography is a way that you could get some kind of de-stress out.
It's just like I get out in nature. Like a lot of the outdoor shots started that way. I was just taking walks, and then I would come across stuff and be like, oh, that kind of looks like the side of a cliff. So I'd go back home, grab a couple action figures, and go back out to where I was walking and just see what I could get. And it just kind of snowballed from there.
Have you ever had it where you're taking a picture and people come past and they're nosing at what you're doing?
Actually, a bunch of kids came up one time, and they were out like hiking or something, and they came across where I was, and they kind of stopped like a deer in headlights, like, what in the world is going on here? I had my tripod set up and toys everywhere, and here I am, this like 40-year-old dude. So they're, you get funny looks and stuff, but I don't care. I do what I do. So
that's the attitude I like to hear. I don't care.
Yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, when I do shots, sometimes I do them outside the movie theater. The security guy will stop me and be like, what the heck are you doing? It's like, I'm just taking photos of toys. What?
What's the deal, man?
Yeah, it's like, he gets out of there. He's more embarrassed for me than I am.
Yeah, probably so.
All right, now we have to ask some traditional questions.
All right,
before we do any more toy ones. And I would like to ask, what are your top 3 favorite Batman animated series episodes?
That's tough because there's so many good ones. But the first one I ever saw, and I don't know if I want to put that in my top 3. It may go in the top 5. We were on a beach trip, and we were in the hotel room at the end of the day, all sunburnt, just chilling. and I had never seen it before. And so it was like right at the start, probably maybe 5 or 6 episodes into the launch of Batman the Animated Series in '92. And it was the Tiger episode.
Yeah.
So that one was sick. And that's always one I go back to. Cat and Claw Conspiracy is always good. The Cat Scratch Fever, any of the Catwoman stuff I always liked. Probably because of Batman Returns, seeing Catwoman in that and having her translated to animation was cool. I always liked their dynamic between Batman and Catwoman. And Moon of the Wolf is always one of my favorites too.
Oh, that's a new one. Yeah, we've never had that before.
Yeah, and I picked up this Fortnite figure. It's a werewolf. And like, I'm not into Fortnite, but like they've got some cool figures out that you can use as customs for other lines.
That's very well.
It's a werewolf?
Yeah, I'm going to take this. If you're looking for picking one up, his name is Dire, D-I-R-E. And,
holy crap, I might have to.
Yeah, it's sick, man. It's a werewolf, and he's gray with blue pants, which is exactly the Moon of the Wolf. That's how he was designed. So I'm going to make a custom out of this for him.
Shout out to those Fortnite figures, by the way.
Yeah, man. Is that the McFarlane or the other ones?
McFarlane, that one is, yeah.
Yeah, because they're a little bit larger than the other set of 6-inch. They're
Yeah.
more along like a 7-inch. And I picked up all like 4 of the 6-inch wild card ones, so I could have a different faceplate on every one.
Yes, cool.
So I'm gonna do some Joker thugs out of those guys.
Nice. Dang,
Yeah,
Josh, what idea with that Dyer figure? Dang.
So the McFarlane 7-inch ones are going to be the ones that DC figures are based on. So
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty cool. Can't wait for
I
it.
need to pick up a couple of those just so I can have some in the larger scale.
Yeah.
Because the smaller ones are like a true 6-inch, and those are more 6.5 or 7, and so they fit a little better, especially with these new NECA figures, which is probably what I'm going to be using a lot.
Yeah, you can have Batman beating up the Royal Flush Gang or something.
Oh yeah.
Scott, do you want to ask your traditional?
Yeah, well, I love the choices, by the way, of the episodes. Cat Scratch Fever is the episode we've just reviewed on this very episode of the podcast. That's good. Nice. Very nice and neatly tied in, so I like that. Are you a big fan of the Arkham games?
I do not currently have a game system. My brother had one, and I played some on his back. I think it was the very first Arkham game to ever release.
Yeah.
I still have my 85 NES, which I got for Christmas that year that it released, and all the games, including Batman. And I had a 64 and a Super NES. And when I got married and moved out, I came back a couple of weeks later, or a couple months later, to pick up the rest of my stuff. My mom was like, "Oh, I sold them in a garage sale." I was like, "No!" So GoldenEye, bye-bye. Like all my 64 and NES stuff was gone, and my Sega Game Gear, but at least I had still had my NES. So
nice.
But I went to work shortly after that and just got real career minded and started having kids and all that stuff. And so the video game time was like out the window. So I didn't even bother. But
Did you ever play
I'd like to pick it back up at some point.
Yeah. Did you ever play the Batman's Return game back in the day?
Which one?
I remember.
Yeah, it was the really old one where everything looked purple.
Yeah.
My dad was playing on that a few weeks ago.
For original Nintendo, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I still have it.
Oh, brilliant! That's awesome.
Yeah, I love
Dad was playing on it a few weeks ago. I was like, "What the hell is this?" There's even a figure of that. NECA
Your
even made a
dad?
figure of that.
Ah.
Yeah. NECA even made a figure of that purple Batman. I might pick it up just for the fun of it.
That's the one that Josh said he painted.
Yeah. That's the one I made my custom with.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's crazy. So you haven't played them all?
No, I've just played the original one, I guess. That one had Killer Croc in it. Was it?
Yeah.
It was breaking it, the Arkham, right?
Yeah, that epic boss fight in the sewers.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
There you are.
That's the only one.
Yeah, that's a freaking awesome game. If there is one that you're going to play, I think that probably is the one. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, Josh.
Yeah.
In terms of Instagram and all that, how do you find the community? It's grown since the time you've been on. Do you feel like it continues to grow? Do you feel like toy photography and all that is a hobby that it seems to be on the upswing? What do you think?
I would say so. As more people become aware of it, of course, just like anything, costuming and cosplay and all that was a real niche thing, and now it's exploded. And so I figure the same thing with toy photography. As more people find out about it, you're going to see it explode. And I've even noticed, like, just in the volume of likes that I get on my pictures and stuff, as more and more people are doing it, I feel like I get less and less exposure. So I'm always looking for ways to kind of improve my shots, tweak my craft a little bit to try to kind of get back in there. Because like I used to get, hundreds of likes on pictures, and then it kind of, when I first started, it was like 10, 15, and then it shot up into the hundreds, and now it's kind of dwindled back around 40, 50, 60. So I don't know if that's my work not being great, or if just people aren't seeing it, or what. But
I think it's
figure a lot
the algorithm recently.
Well, yeah, that's true. Anytime they
recently
mess
it's
with
been
that,
bad.
it screws it up.
Algorithm recently has been horrendous. It really has.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's interesting you say that too, because we were just talking about that as well. But yeah, I mean, it's good that and I have noticed a lot of growth in people, but I don't think that's the reason that you're not getting the likes. I think Instagram's being screwy with people.
Yeah.
Because your work's great, and if you look at your like customs and all that, I mean, there's no way that you shouldn't be getting a lot more likes or exposure. So
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that.
no problem. I mean, it's just the truth. But yeah, that is interesting. You say that. It is a bummer.
Yeah.
So what accounts inspired you then to get into like the whole toy photography thing? So we talked about how you got into it, but what accounts do you sort of follow that offer you inspiration and sort of motivate you to carry on?
Yeah. Well, actually, the other man we're talking to today was one of the ones that got me into doing the diorama building.
Yes.
I saw your dioramas, and they were so like simple but like elegant too. And that's kind of the whole idea behind the Batman the Animated Series, is you have a real simplified, almost noir art form, but with the color in there. But you have these, long lines and, real simple, like the windows, made out of Post-it notes or whatever, just that simple style really enhances, especially those animated collectible figures. They really pop with that kind of simplistic background. And so just seeing your rooftops and your buildings and stuff got me like thinking, hey, I can build something. Let me give it a shot. And so that's what really got me into doing the dioramas and things. But I kind of went with a more realistic look because I don't have a ton of the animated figures. And so I did like real detailed alleyways and a subway. And then I've got a rooftop that I built with a water tower. So that's kind of the main sets that I do my shots around. There's some others I'd like to build. I just don't have the space right now, so kind of limited that way. So I try to do some outdoor stuff to supplement, just so people don't get tired of seeing the same look in all my shots.
I love that you mentioned that. That's a sign of a true fan, someone that knows the difference between the realistic and the sort of animated backgrounds. Because genuinely, I mean that, because you see a lot of people that kind of put an animated backdrop with like a Ben Affleck figure, and it doesn't,
right.
It might be a cool shot, but it doesn't quite work. The Batman fans can't be fooled by that.
Yeah.
So it's good. I like that little attention to detail. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm very artistically minded. My mom put me in art classes when I was younger, and so I have a real understanding and concept of color and different mediums and things like that. And so I try to be thoughtful when I set up shots and think through those aspects so that it translates well.
So in terms of actual photography, what camera do you use to take your pictures?
So I currently have an iPhone. I'm wanting to get a real camera.
Same.
But
same again.
Yeah. But the one I have. My mom says I have a champagne taste on a beer budget. So like I've got a real high sense of taste. So what I'm after costs way more than I can spend right now. So in the meantime, I'm content to keep using the iPhone. It does very well, especially I just picked up the 11 Pro, and it's got the 3 different cameras on it. And so I'm trying to learn how to use it and kind of do some stuff with it. And you can see an improvement that when I bought my iPhone 8 a couple years ago, they told me it was the same camera that was on the 10. And my brother had a 10 at the time, and some of the portrait shots were just sick looking. And so I was like, sweet, well, I'll get this 8 because it's cheaper, but I'll have the good camera. Well, no, it was not the same camera. And so like, there's not even a portrait mode on that thing. And so by the time I figured it out, it was too late to go back and say, hey, hold on, this is not the phone I want. So I just bit the bullet and kept on going. And then when I settled, with the company that I got injured through, first thing I did was went out and bought the 11 Pro.
Nice. Well, you've noticed
I'm still learning how to use it.
Yeah, what is the
But-
camera like on it? How would you rate it?
How would I rate it? It's good. The only thing that I'm frustrated with is like, especially with like a Batman, like the ears are fuzzy. If you use the portrait mode and try to make that foreground pop, it blurs like his ears out or the side of somebody's face. It has trouble recognizing sometimes what's in the background and what's in the foreground. So you have to really, you have to be the right distance from what you're shooting, and you really have to, like, when you touch the focus, you really have to hone in on those ears or they'll get lost.
What's the night mode picture like? I've always been fascinated to see it.
I have not tried that yet. That's on my to-do list. So
nice. You have to let us know how that goes.
Get back to you on that one.
You have to let us know how that goes, because I'm really interested to see that, especially being Batman photographers as well.
Yeah, I did take a picture of like the side of a house, and like it magnifies the saturation of the light. Like it looks like you took it in daytime. So, but it's a little more grainy. It's pretty grainy so far in my experience, and I might not be using it correctly, but it's a bit more grainy than what you'd get in a daytime shot.
I'm actually really interested to hear what your thoughts are overall, because I might be getting that phone soon.
Yeah, I would definitely get the Pro. I don't know how soon if they're gonna do a Pro S, or they always like put.
Knowing my luck, right when I get it, they will.
Everybody buys that one.
Always
and they're like, oh, and here's the S, and you're like, crap. So,
just like Mezco with an exclusive, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Here's the Joker, but here's the real Joker.
Yeah, exactly. So you might wait. I mean, it's really good, but if just in case within the next 6 months they decide to drop an upgrade, from this one, you might want to hang out a little bit and just see, because they'll probably tweak some of the bugs, that people run into, like the fuzzy edges and stuff like that. As people provide feedback, they'll probably look at,
True.
tweaking some of that stuff. So, but I love it, and if you don't mind getting this one, and then in 6 months to a year buying another one, go for it.
Well, in terms of DC media and everything like that, there's been a recent big movie that came out. We wanted to hear your thoughts on it a little bit. What do you think about Joker?
Okay, so I haven't made it yet because we have.
You haven't seen it?
No.
Oh.
We have an infant in the home, and drives my wife crazy, and so I try to help her out as much as possible. My brother went and saw it. We usually go see movies together. He's 8 years younger than I am, and so we're close enough in age and have similar interests. So we typically go see that kind of stuff together. But right now he's working night shift, and so it's hard for us to get together with his schedule like that. But he saw it. He said he loved it. It was he's okay seeing it one time just because it was like so brutal. Parts of it, he said, were very, very rough, and
He's
which
not wrong.
coming from him surprised me because he loves stuff like Jaws and like all these franchises that have gore and stuff. So I don't know if it was like the psychological component that messed with him or what, but yeah, like
I think that's what it is.
My field of study, some of my work I did in my undergrad degree, it was in psychology, and so that aspect always intrigues me. I might go back to school and get my master's in counseling. Nice. So that's something I'm looking at. So anything to do with psychology has always intrigued me, and I'm very, interested in. So I'll probably really enjoy it as soon as I get a chance to see it. I love the trailer so far.
I think you will then, especially if that's your field of study. That'd be really cool for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just hopefully I don't pull a Harley Quinn and go crazy or something.
Or fall in love with them. No, I'm interested to hear hopefully you do a review on your YouTube channel about what you think about it. Especially since
I'll definitely
studied that stuff. That'd be interesting to hear a professional's take on that.
I don't know about professional. Oh, you mean in the psychology? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've got an undergrad. I don't have a master's or anything. So.
That's more than us. So to us, you're professional. Now, Scott, any final things?
Well, yeah, it's like I'm looking at the background. I'm fascinated by all the figures that you've got there. Talk us through some of your favourites that you've got. I know you've mentioned the NECA Batman already, but what other figures, from other different lines and stuff, are kind of your favourites and ones that you always sort of like? If you're in a photography drought, I always go to the Justice League Batman. What's your go-to?
Yeah, like I've been wanting to do some dinosaur shots, and I just picked up the Jurassic Park.
He looks awesome.
Yeah, it's sick, man. I got 2 of these raptors, and I picked up the Ian Malcolm, and I'm hoping they give us a Robert Muldoon because I really want to recreate the shot where she comes up beside him, and he looks to the side, and he's like, "Clever girl," and then he's eating. Yeah, so I really want to. I really like the dinosaur stuff, and pilled around with that. My go-to, what I always go back to, is probably either Daredevil or anything Batman. Spider-Man, I like, but I don't have the setup right now to really pull off the Spider-Man shots that I'd like to do. So that's kind of something I always want to go to, but can't really. And but yeah, Ninja Turtles have been fun to mess around with. That NECA Ninja Turtle set. I got the Tech Deck half pipe.
Oh.
I got that thing and took them out and did some outdoor shots with those, and they turned out really good. Made a custom April O'Neil out of the. I've got 2. One's like her yellow kind of cartoon outfit, and I took the white Shield Agent figure that came out probably 3-4 years ago. She had like blonde hair and a ponytail. And I popped her head off and stuck the vintage wave Black Widow head on there, which is the same head as the Mary Jane from the Spider-Man 2-pack. And I painted her suit yellow with the white boots and everything to kind of go with that classic animated look. And then I just used the Mary Jane figure in her like regular street clothes kind of as an April sometimes too, because that kind of reddish brown hair just kind of fits. It's not the right length, but overall it's a good enough look that it translates well, I think.
Oh yeah. Now, any major reveals from the recent New York Comic-Con that you are stoked on, that you're looking forward to getting, and anything that you thought that absolutely sucked?
No, the thing I was waiting on for New York Comic Con was for that Batman to drop, that Batman 2-pack. And, we knew about it, so it wasn't a surprise. I was just waiting for it to get here so I could get a hold of it. Being kind of in getting back to work mode, I haven't really been as engaged with media of late.
That's probably good.
Yeah, maybe. So, there's a lot going on that I'm, still catching up on in terms of toy news or comic news in general. So I don't really have a lot to say right now. I know they're rumoring the Suicide Squad 2. They've picked a voice actor for King Shark. They just announced that. So there's some DC stuff. I just really hope DC can get off the ground in the movies, they just seem to have really struggled. And I'd really like to see them finally get a formula that works and move forward and give us some good stuff. I liked Batman versus Superman. I'm probably in the minority on
yeah,
that.
Me too. I like it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, those were awesome. I'm excited for Wonder Woman. What's 82, 84, 80 something
84. Yeah,
84. Because your superpowers came out. All right. So, I'm excited for that. I hate that Ben Affleck left the role of Batman. I loved him as Batman. I loved the suit concept, especially in Batman versus Superman. Once they started, making it all high tech and stuff, I wasn't as appealing to me. But that first suit in Batman versus Superman, I thought was perfect because it it had that Dark Knight Returns kind of influence and that Hush influence, and just that real gritty, rugged, street brawler. That's the Batman you want.
He can move his head.
Right. What's up with that? But I love Keaton's 12-inch tall ears and everything, and having that influence and that 80s kind of comic influence. When they went to the shorter eared look, it was off-putting at first, but once I got used to it, I was like, yeah, that looks actually really good.
Yeah,
definitely.
He actually looks like a Batman as well, with Bruce. And when he was Bruce Wayne, he looks like a Bruce Wayne. Christian Bale didn't always seem like he had the right stature for it, and people said the same about Keaton. But Ben Affleck just looks so imposing and intimidating as Batman. Really perfect casting.
Yeah, it was really, really good. The speaking of Nolan's trilogy, one of my favorite parts in the whole thing is when he's Trask, or I think I'm saying his name right, is coming back from the falafel stand that he's just stolen the food from. Batman snatches him up and he's like, I don't know anything, I swear to God. He's like, swear to me.
Yeah.
That scene was fantastic. Like, I love seeing
Batman.
him be so aggressive like that. That was really good. And I also liked Bane. Some people either loved Bane in Nolan's trilogy or you hated him. And that weird squirrely voice worked for me. It was entertaining. What a lovely, lovely voice. All those lines and stuff were great. I loved all his dry wit and the kind of humor they gave to Bane in that film. I thought was really good.
It was.
Not a lot of people talk about the other villains apart from Joker, but even Scarecrow was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
If only we had more of them. I wanted more.
Yeah. And you thought you were going to get more at the beginning of The Dark Knight, but you just get a little cameo appearance, and then that's all you see of him. Of Scarecrow.
Yeah, he's not wearing hockey pads.
Yeah.
Scott, any final words?
I want to say a massive thank you. I'm very annoyed about seeing the neck of Batman because I'm now going to have to buy it.
Oh, yeah.
It looks fantastic, and the Superman as well, actually. But
you might find him loose. Like, if you don't care about the Predators, you might can find him loose for a decent price.
Yeah, I'm going to have to do some eBay research, I think. But, big thank you to you for coming on. It means a lot. And, at such short notice as well. It means even more so. Yeah, really, really happy that you came on. And fantastic guy. And, we'll definitely have to have you back on again soon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very much enjoyed it. Thank you.
Josh, do you want to tell not only your figure review YouTube, but also you have another YouTube? Do you want to share that?
I've got a fitness YouTube that I just kind of following my story from having been injured and trying to get back in shape. Before I got injured, I was lifting weights regularly and my nutrition was dialed in, and I was about 178 pounds, but like a muscular 178 and real lean. I was probably the leanest I've ever been. I played football in high school and middle school or junior high, depending on what part of the country you're from. But after high school, I didn't really play anymore, and I kind of got out of shape. And so I had really worked hard. I dropped 60 pounds and just gotten in the best shape of my life. And then I got injured. And so for the last 3.5 years, it just basically undid all of that. And so Josh Cherry Fitness, one word, Josh Cherry Fitness. That's my Instagram, and then a YouTube channel by the same name. So you can find me that way and just kind of follow my story as I get my life put back together, basically.
We'll make sure we link it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Well, I want to thank again, Josh. I mean, I enjoy your page, and not only I enjoy the fact that you were able to put up with the fact that I slept in today for the first time in a long time. And I also just want to thank you for always he DMs me, always sends me pics, and it's awesome to see his work, and just nice to have someone that you could talk to and it's nice to have those people that enjoy the same interests as you, that you could always just touch base with and say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? So I also know that you're a busy man. You got a family, and also, you got a lot of other things going on. So I'm honored that you would take time out of your day to join us. And if you guys aren't following him, again, you need to go check him out at Figure Depot. And he has links in his bio to his YouTube page. And he also has another YouTube page, which he already talked about, is fitness. And you could join that story. And as someone that went through back injuries, that's actually it's actually really cool that you're sharing that kind of thing. And I mean, I can relate to that. And I'm sure there's tons of people that can relate to that. So the fact that you're doing that, I think is pretty awesome as well. So check him out. He's a great guy. He also is very talented with a camera and with posing action figures. And we're glad that we finally got to have him on. This has been DC Figures and Collectibles, where we do what you do too, and we take a bad situation that has happened to us and get through it by using toy photography. So we're glad that you joined us. Thank you for always sending Scott and I messages, letting us know what you guys think of the show, whether you love it, whether you thought it sucked. We enjoy it. So we look forward to doing another episode soon. We hope that you join us, and we'll be back before you know it. Goodbye.